First of all, if I may, just a little out of touch, I want to thank the witnesses. All three were just so forthright and earnest, and I thought that was great. I happen to disagree with all three of them, but honestly, I thought that was very good, and I especially want to say I disagree on the bill. I do not disagree with the conclusion that both the judge and Ms. Biden said that the current system doesn't work so great and that it needs fixing. But I am very concerned about where this is heading. And I also want to say, and I think to the sponsor as well, they're very forthright that we are heading towards getting rid of bail. I disagree with that. I think public safety is served by a bail system. Does it need fixing? Does it need dramatic fixing? The answer is absolutely yes. And I'll tell you, as a kid of academics, and my father taught statistics at Stanford Business School for 50 years, I can come up with a whole lot of statistics from interest groups that prove my points. And everything we heard today from very honest and forthright and earnest witnesses was from a pretty small group of advocates who, very truthfully, have told us where they want to go. Right? So if you want gun control, you probably don't go to the NRA and say, "What's your study?" Right? And it works the other way. If you want expanded Second Amendment rights, you probably go to the NRA and say, "What's your study?" And I think anybody who looks at this, at where this is going, there are some legitimate concerns. First of all, it's going to cost a lot of money, period. Now, whether this specific bill or not qualifies for a fiscal note, and by the way, what qualifies for a fiscal note seems to have changed in the last few years, but whether this bill, the specific bill or not, qualifies for a fiscal note, the idea of getting rid of bail and hiring government employees to go get people and bring them back to court is going to cost a lot of money. Currently, that process, whether you like it or not, is done by people outside of government who don't charge us anything. Completely replacing that system has cost, whether you look at Washington, D.C., New Jersey, and these other places, tens of millions of dollars. And the question came up, why do we think this is being rushed? Do I think this is being rushed legislatively? No. We had, quite frankly, 6 months. I'm a little disappointed in my side that we didn't get a little more organized, quite frankly. But the rushing side of it is the policy side. We are going to, if we want to do this, we're going to have to create an entire infrastructure that's going to cost a whole lot of money. And we don't have that infrastructure. And we haven't made the policy decision whether we want that infrastructure. And I will tell you, do I think folks who are advocating for this really believe that this is the right way to go, and they're concerned about the rights of those accused and not convicted yet? Answer is yes. And I really share those concerns. I mean, I'm a conservative. I don't trust the government. And when people get incarcerated for long periods of time without being convicted, that really concerns me. And we should do something about it. But I also am very, very concerned about public safety. And if we release people who are going to commit crimes, who are committing crimes by definition, because they just got put into the system, and they are now released into communities and not being detained, this is a shocker, you're going to get more crime. Do you know who commits crime? Statistically, I think it's statistics, this is not one of those funny statistics. People who commit crimes. We have a 75% recidivism rate in Delaware. Chances are, if you're a victim of a crime, you're a victim of someone who committed a crime before. And if we create a system, regardless of how well-intentioned, that takes more of those people and puts them out here with us, we are going to create more victims. And by the way, those people, I shouldn't say with us, because when those people who should be detained aren't, they're not coming into my neighborhood. They're not going to come to my farm. They're not going to come to any of our neighborhoods. They're going to go to neighborhoods that are already in trouble. And I have to tell you, I'm just very concerned about where this is going. And saying that, I also understand that, and I think the intentions of the other side are honorable, but I think this is going to be very expensive. I think we are going to end up with creating more victims. And I also think, by the way, our founders were pretty smart people. The Fourth Amendment says no excessive bail. If you have your Constitution says you shouldn't have excess of something, they assume you should have it. And before we start pulling away a foundation of our justice system for 200 years, 220-something years, I think we should tread a little more carefully. And I realize it probably has the votes to pass today. I would very much prefer if this were done as a whole package, because I think the witnesses said and the sponsor said there's several more steps to this. And I would also like to say, if we're going to do something this momentous, this is putting us on a path to get rid of bail. This is a momentous change. If we're going to make that momentous change, I would prefer if we had a little bit more time to see how it's worked in other places. And again, I just want to finish on a hopefully slightly more friendly note. I think the intentions of the sponsor and the intentions of the folks who came today are advocating for it, and the Chief Judge, who's been very kind enough with his time. Thank you, Judge. I think absolutely trying to fix what they perceive as a real problem. I'm just concerned that the consequences aren't worth it. Thank you very much.